Okay, here it is, Zimbabwe. My name is Ngobani Zonde, and I am ready to lead you out of poverty and get to a place of glory, to a place of sustained development, a development that you can be proud of, a development plan that makes sense. I told you that it's a 11-point plan, and it needs 80 billion United States dollars to kickstart the economy of Zimbabwe. You might not need all the 80 billion at once. It might come in trenches. Okay, so it doesn't mean that it must come at once. It may come in trenches and from multiple organizations. Now, therefore, I want now to articulate to you the economic plan that I have for Zimbabwe, the vision that I have for Zimbabwe. I do not know the one that ED has. I do not know the one that Chamisa has, because all I see the concern about is power. But power for who? Power for what purpose? Power has to be purposeful. As I'm saying that I am offering this plan and this sacrificing my life to become a leader, there is a plan and there is a reason. There's a reason behind that. I don't just want power for the sake of it. Trust me, I've got enough power. I'm a child of the living God. I'm seated in heavenly places with all authority and power. When you are self-sufficient when it comes to that, it's not an ego trip, but it's out of necessity that our nation has suffered for so long. And sound heads have started talking right now. People that want to talk sense, they want to talk progress and success for our country. Okay. Now, what you need in Zimbabwe as a new government is recognize one thing. First of all, where are you taking the country from? We're coming from an extremely low base that has been caused by sanctions and ill-advised policies that our government has been undertaking in the past 40 years. There's rampant poverty and corruption. So you want to deal with two things at once: rampant poverty and corruption, hunger, which means that the first thing that you must do on the job is to deploy the soldiers across all schools for a feeding scheme. People must be given free food so that nobody can sleep hungry. Do you understand? Because we cannot talk about development when people are hungry, because these developmental ideas can take over a year to fruition, some of them even years. So people need to eat every day. So the first point of call is to use soldiers. Why do I say soldiers? Because you need to heal the divide between the security cluster of Zimbabwe and the ordinary people. One way to do that is using the soldiers that people have had a negative experience with in the past. Now, as a new leader, we want to bring that trust, that relationship, to see that the soldiers are actually builders of a nation. They are feeders of a nation, so that when people see a soldier, they don't see someone who kicks them, but someone who can feed them. Hallelujah. I said it's this hunger and corruption. Corruption, one, you want to close the tap of corruption. Okay, the biggest tap that you must close is two of them. In the government itself, the national government and local authorities, making sure that they work appropriately. They do what they must do, which is good governance, service delivery focused. Therefore, you are getting people in place who are going to be outcome oriented. All right. And one of the biggest tap that you must close is the corruption in the mining sector. Because as you can see in Zimbabwe, the reason why a lot of people want to do politics is for one thing. They don't want to build Zimbabwe. The only reason why they want to be in politics is so that they can have political power and have proximity to the extractive resources which are in the mining sector, and extract for their own selfish interest to enrich themselves and their families and leave the rest of the Zimbabweans suffering. So the first thing that you must do there is to close the tap, to close the corruption in the mining industry. You need to get the mining sector to operate under a rule of law. We need to know how much is on the ground, how much is being extracted by who, how much money are they making. We need to we need to get our revenue there. You need to have a robust system of tax collection with all checks and balances. Understand? Secure the bank, secure that sector, and also expand your ability to collect tax across the economy, whether it's in the borders or it's value added tax or whatever. I'm not talking about increasing taxes. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about increasing the efficiency of the tax collector. That is, and there's a lot of corruption going in there. So you need a strong leader who is whose intentions is to fight the corruption in that area. To understand. So once you are getting your people fed, they're eating every day, and therefore you are closing the loopholes that have been causing this country to bleed. Because it's not effective for me what the current government is doing, trying to build here and there, building a road there, building the border post, building a hospital here or a clinic here and there, whilst the country is bleeding. It doesn't serve any good when you are pouring in a bucket, but at the bottom of the bucket there's a huge hole. So you need to cover the walls. You need to stop the bleeding. As you stop the bleeding, you are able to secure the nation's resources into the national fiscus. Then, therefore, if you've got money into the national fiscus, therefore, we can talk about actually dispersing the funds across the economy so that the economy can work. So you see very quickly there, very quickly, you see that what is needed is actually a heart, someone with a heart and the desire to make this thing work. So kuti mukombana ngaapinde means nothing to me. Ngaapinde aite chi. Because if he's even quiet about the real problems of the country, or even suggesting any answers, or like what must we do? Canada pinda, I'm gonna do what? Carry on doing what has been happening. So voters by and large are usually short-sighted. It's very easy to hoodwink people and lie to them, especially if you look handsome and you are 40-something, and then you are young and all the girls think that you are cute. They just want to vote for you. They don't really know what they've got. No economic policy, no plan whatsoever. They don't care because they do not know. And it's not really, I don't blame the voters really. I blame the system and the politicians that come with ill intentions, with intentions to steal from the people. So what I'm saying, there in the first place, we need actually good heart. Good governance comes from good hearts, to understand. So it's what I call the mining sector reforms. Okay, so that is point number one in my 11-point plan. Point number one is the mining sector reforms. We need to have robust laws on who gets to own these mines, and when they own the mines, there needs to be accountability. We need to know how much they are making, how they are making, so that the government can get as much revenue as possible in a corruption-free manner, in a fair and just manner. To understand, those are the mining sector reforms, and it will unlock a huge revenue stream to the government, to accrue to the government. Number two is banking sector reforms. Banking sector reforms. As I said in the previous video, that the most important thing in any political organization or in any country is trust. It's not the size of a military only, but also the trust factor of the institutions. The banking sector in Zimbabwe has been untrustworthy for a long time. So we need banking sector reforms, and we're talking about the people that were connected to the Reserve Bank. Can you imagine? The Reserve Bank is the lender of last resort. If there's anybody that must be trusted, it is the Reserve Bank. But there was an erosion of trust in Zimbabwean Reserve Bank when we knew that politically connected people. Okay, we have had names like Takwere. We need to name those people by name. Okay, we need to name them and not be afraid of them. If we're going to take the country forward, we need to name them. Takwere. They say that they allege that Assistant Taipit, he alleges that his relationship with the current president is close proximity to with Emerson Mnangagwa, and they are close buddies, they are friends who are able to to dry up all the foreign currency reserves in the reserve bank. Okay, so Mthuli Mncube is breaking that. They've been covering that, so that is why the Zim dollar is actually has stabilized these days. Are you telling me, Mr. Mncube, that you didn't know all along? You knew, obviously, but that the bleeding was just too much, so you had to tell your friend to stop. But who knows that if after you stop for 5-6 months, you're gonna go back and raid the reserve bank. So there is clearly lack of trust in the banking sector. So we need robust banking sector reforms. Fire Mthuli Mncube, fire that Mankuja, go back to Switzerland, wherever it is that they want to go to and eat that money there. We'll put a new person in charge in the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. We put a new person in charge as the finance minister of Zimbabwe. As we get a new president as well in Zimbabwe, who is not Nangaka, who is not Chamisa, who's me. All is God. Put people that are trustworthy. Reform the banking sector with the laws that are followed. Put to jail those that are not willing to do the right thing. We don't want people with friends. I don't have friends. I don't want to be a friend. I'm not interested in friendship because friendship corrupts. The only friend I have is Christ. And he is the incorruptible seed of Abraham. That's what we need. The president and his friends and Takurai and all the cabal, the reason why they survive in Zimbabwe and they do what they do is because they are friends. You know, sometimes I feel something from Mnangagwa. I feel sorry for him. I do understand how it's difficult for him, even from Mthuli Mncube and Manguja. I understand why it's difficult is because they've got friends. If they were to stop being friends with these people, Zimbabwe will be better. But they are afraid of disappointing their friends. You understand? Friends destroy you, and your friends can destroy a country. You understand? So we need to get friends out of the picture. I don't have friends. Nobody here can say they're my friend. Not interested. Number 3, judicial and security sector reforms. What am I talking about? We know of a lot of corruption in the judiciary. You know, the government. You know, to be more precise, ZANU-PF controlling the judges. MTC was destroyed because Emmerson Mnangagwa was practically, allegedly controlling the judiciary. And the elections are stolen and nothing is done about it because the judiciary is also not up to scratch. Trust, once again, you can't be trust. Trust is important for institutions, to understand. And for institutions to be strong and for that trust to be there, the one who is the head of the house must not have a rotten head. Fish start rotting in the head. The head must not be rotten. The head must be right. The head of the nation, the president of the country, must be a strong person who doesn't have friends. Okay, who wants to promote peace and prosperity and righteousness, and will be able to build a judiciary that is truly independent and constitutional based. I said judiciary and security sector reforms, not just the court system, but also the security sector, starting from the army to the police. Very essential part there, the police. The police is rampantly corrupt, excessively corrupt. I do understand that it is because maybe they are underpaid. It's not only that they're being underpaid, it's because there is not much oversight. There is no judicial oversight over the police. There's no regulation much. What the police is doing. We need to build a society. You need to build a security sector that has got robust checks and balances. We need to have, and he need to have and empower multiple security sector agencies that will be checking each other, not just one. Understand? You know, the Central Intelligence Agency should not be alone. CIO, Central Intelligence Organization. You need to have another sister organization that will check it, and the police, and there's a whole lot of a system overhaul that I have there. So I'm just picking pointers. Each and every single one of these things, I've got I can make a whole video for each and every single one of them, so that we can really get a clear handle of where I'm taking the country towards. Number 4, good governance and accountability, anti-corruption and anti-graft law enactment. Okay, good governance and accountability. I did speak about it earlier on, that the office of the presidency itself, the ministries, the municipalities, the local the rural district council, there needs to be accountability. There need to be good governance. We need to have a strong anti-corruption drive that is empowered. Okay, that is empowered and can act impartially. Understand? So it goes back to the head of the house. The one who is heading, the head of government, must be a strong-minded person, not somebody who can just be pulled left, right, and center by his friends and family. No. So all of these above, all of these 4 above, they lead to they will cause the following. So number 1 to 4 will cause number 5 to 11 to be something. So this is number 5. Education Reform and Modernization Act. Okay, I'm gonna call it the Education Reform and Modernization Act, or you can call it Education Modernization and Reform Act or plan, something like that. What do I mean by that? Now, as you're getting your revenue stream okay, and you're offering treasury bills and getting money from multilateral organizations, one thing that we have got to do now is to build the education sector, an overhaul of the education sector. So I call it modernization, because our education system is extremely archaic. It's not in line with the needs of industry. Okay, we need to reimagine education. We need to rethink education. We need to rethink education outcomes and how we actually achieve those goals. We need to rethink what is primary education, what is secondary education, what is ordinary level, what is advanced level, which subjects must be studied, what is in the curriculum, and how is it going to be presented. And at the core of my plan for education is e-learning. Okay, e-learning involves using the resources of the internet to administer education, meaning that we will have e-textbooks, e-lessons that are preloaded on electronic gadgets that every student should have, just like a uniform. A student in Zimbabwe must not be allowed to go to school without this electronic gadget. It could be a laptop, it could be a tablet. Preferable, I would prefer a tablet that is a touch screen, because we've got multiple abilities, including actually using an e-pen to write on a pad. You get what I'm saying? To write usually using an electronic pen, okay, or to type. So you have that ability, something which a laptop might not be able to do. So once we get that, kids are able to learn even at their own pace. If a child did not understand in class, they can still go back to their e-learning platform and upload a video that teaches that subject. So you understand that with e-learning, we have the possibility of actually recording the actual lesson in class. You can record it and upload it in the system so that the children can revisit the time in class. Also, the teacher is able not only upload but to edit that video so that it doesn't become too long, so that the key only the necessary key points are in the video, so that kids do not waste their time watching videos of people of a teacher marking or saying nothing. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Yeah, so let's go for that possibility. Also, the possibility of having multiple teachers teaching the same thing. You understand? So that maybe if the student doesn't understand this teacher, they can upload another video of the same concept being explained by another teacher. Maybe they'll understand better, until sometimes we get that another child will discover a teacher that they like, but that teacher is not from their school, but it's a teacher from another school. To understand that now, because we have got a lot of teachers in the country, e-learning would be able to help us use the very good teachers that we have. They're able to replicate their ability through e-learning. To understand, one good teacher can be so popular that children around the country might actually be utilizing their resources, their videos, thereby leveling the playing field in education outcomes. To understand, that's my education plan. So also another thing with e-learning that you can do is actually teaching in different languages. You can teach maths in English. You can also teach maths in Shona. You can teach maths in Ndebele. You can teach maths in Nyanja, or in whatever language, in Xhosa, whatever language. So with e-learning, you've got the ability to have teachers who will have these pre-recorded things that are in different languages, because some children find it difficult to learn because of the English barrier, of the language barrier. So if you teach them in their language, they might understand better, so that when they go back to the English language, they already know the concept. Because sometimes it's not the concept that is difficult, but it is the way in which the concept is conveyed to the child. There's a loss in translation because of the language barrier. Because somebody has to think people who think in their language, but here in a foreign language, they have to translate what they hear in that language to their language, and then try to understand. You see, it's a very long process. And also, another advantage of e-learning is that besides videos being of a teacher instructing, that is actually a limitation, because listening to someone speaking on camera is not different from being in that class physically. One of the ways in which e-learning can be able to advance our education system is the use of photos, pictures, pictography. I mean, film. You know, if you want to teach about a volcano, actually show a real film of a volcano exploding. You want to teach about the rain cycle, show pictures of rainfalls or whatever. You know, you get what I'm saying. If you want to talk about the mining industry, show the pictures, the videos of that thing happening. Pictures seem to stay longer in someone's mind than actual words. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff that we can play around with this e-learning platform. Another important part about this e-learning platform is that in an e-learning program, you are able to present your curriculum in a very dynamic manner. What do I mean by that? I will say that you can have a basic curriculum. You say, okay, we're starting topic A, B, C, D, E. That's what the kids must learn, right? However, you discover that topic B, some child might be very interested in topic B more than all the other topics, because maybe they have got a natural inclination to that topic. Therefore, because of e-learning, you could have deeper lessons that are about B only, so that those who want to specialize in B can get deeper and deeper into B, whilst they are going to be regular on C, D, and E. So that you can have a testing system where it will test you on the basics of A, B, C, D, E. At the same time, as we get deeper into the B, you also have tests that only test those that have specialized in B, or those that are specialized in C, such that you can have a student who can still follow the basic national curriculum that is standardized for everybody, while at the same time engaging themselves in the subject matter in which they are extremely talented in or they're interested in, and therefore achieving specialization at a younger age, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to do this at university. So I'm saying that maybe some child who is interested in science or in some kind of maybe electricity, they mustn't wait until they finish A level to go into electrical studies at university. They can still start young and actually specialize in that department whilst they are still at school without compromising the integrity of the basic, this basic curriculum that I said. That there be a basic starting A, starting this thing, A, B, C, D, E is an example of a curriculum, a simple curriculum that everybody follows. In the same, on top of that, we've got another layer of deepening each and every single aspect, not only per subject, but across subjects, across disciplines, and giving the students the potential and the ability to even deeply entrench themselves to as many as they please according to their abilities, because some students are fast learners and some students are slow learners. Some students might be interested in getting deeper in one subject, some might be interested in getting deeper in 3 or 4 or 5 subjects. So we do not want to stop them, so we're giving them the opportunity to do that, to express themselves. So if you've got children that are expressing themselves, students that are expressing themselves, so you can see basically that the outcomes of the education system are going to be much better and be in line with the needs of the child, at the same time with the needs of industry, because there will be no shortage of people that are specializing in that thing, and industry is able to advertise its own needs in the platform. Industry is able to add its own content in the curriculum. In fact, the curriculum should also be industrially driven, so that whatever we're teaching, the industry must know and the industry must contribute to this revolving curriculum. You understand? The curriculum must always be revolving, changing through iteration. We find out what works and what doesn't work, and we keep on moving. It's not just static, because the globe is moving. As we get to the fourth industrial revolution, we discover that this information economy is going to be won by those that are able to change quickly. We're able to adapt quickly. So if your adaptation levels or skills are very low as a country, you'll be behind. So I need my country to be able to adapt very, 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 very quickly through this adjustment of this education system. So you see, I'm talking about this is a whole huge industry on its own, of which has got export potential. That if it works in Zimbabwe, we can export it to other countries and get foreign currency through this education system alone. To understand, this is very robust. So I hope you understand that. So let's move on. Health sector recapacitation and retooling program. Okay, I will get engaged in the health sector recapacitation and retooling program. One of the most important things in any economy is a strong health sector. Okay, we're tired of foreigners telling us that we must go back to our own country to receive health services. I mean, Zimbabwe has been embarrassed enough on that front. So we need to recapacitate our hospitals. Okay, I said recapacitate and also retooling. You understand? So there's a difference there, because we are coming from a low base. Even there's a shortage of medicine here and there. So with the new government, we need to get medicine available across the board, and new beds and all the essential that is needed to run a hospital. But we don't want to end there. You do want to retool them and really build world class hospitals. Okay, you need to build world-class hospitals and clinics across the country, and that takes a lot of money. That costs a lot of money. That's where the money is coming in from, where we need the money. All right, I'm not gonna delve deeper in the health sector now. Let's go back. So let's go on. Then the next thing is road and rail infrastructure renewal. All right. The important thing about this road and rail infrastructure renewal is that it provides employment and an economic structure. All right. If you've got an infrastructural project, program, it provides a whole lot of employment. If all the provinces are building something, there's a lot of jobs that are created, low skilled jobs and also some medium skilled jobs and high skilled jobs as well. Therefore, it helps to jack up this economy, because in our economy we've got a high unemployment rate, right? And a lot of our people are in the informal sector. So as we can see now already with these three things, with education sector reforms, health sector recapacitating and retooling, road and rail infrastructure, already you can imagine the number of people, the number of jobs that are going to be created by these three things alone. Because of the employment or the creation of the jobs, you get the economic model running. The economy, the closed cycle of the national economy begins to be running. You are increasing GDP, gross domestic product. And as more people are earning the money, more people are spending in the economy. So it has got knock-off effects across the whole spectrum of the economy. So in this program, if it's government sponsored, there's a good thing about it, about being centrally commanded, is that we are able now to avoid monopolies. Okay, we are able to make sure that with this money that the government disperses, its intention is to deliberately disperse the money to as many people as possible. You understand? That's very pertinent. We need to get this thing right. It's very pertinent that when we're building roads, not all the money is going to go to one person, to one company. We're building hospitals and schools. Not all the money will go to guys who have connected to the president, his friends. In economics, they have got this thing that they call the they call it the marginal dollar. Okay, the propensity to spend as someone gets more and more of more and more income. It goes like this. The propensity for you to spend the first dollar that you are going to earn is very high. It's most likely that if you get paid $1, it's most likely that you're going to spend all of it today. Even if you get paid $10 today, it's most likely you're going to spend all of it today. But if you get paid $20 a day, you might just spend $12 and save $8. If you get paid $100, you might just spend $15 and save $85. So this concept in economics goes like this: that the more money you give to one person, the less likely they're gonna spend the more the next money is. You get what I'm saying? Meaning that in order to grow an economy, you don't want to give all the money to few people, because they will spend less and save the rest of the money, starving the economy of income. However, if you distribute this money across the spectrum, you will have less money on each person, but the propensity for spending is very high, meaning that almost all the money that you have dispersed in the economy, it will work. So, for example, if all Zimbabweans are given $500 a month, they're most likely to spend all $500 a month. But however, if we just give 10 Zimbabweans $10 million each, those 10 will just spend very, very little as compared to spreading their money across the board. So that is an economic plan that government must follow. But you see now, I told you about the head, that the head must not be rotten. If the government, if the president has got a rotten head, he will want to steal all that money. He will want all that money to be his and his family. And when they make all those millions, like what is happening right now, the money that they make, they bank it in Singapore. Okay. And the Singapore economy, banking sector works. They can't bank it in Zimbabwe because the banking sector in Zimbabwe is got a trust deficit. They themselves, the people who run the Zimbabwean banking sector, they don't even trust that banking sector themselves. So you see, they are starving the economy of money that should be circulating in the economy because of monopolization of these government resources. It's not like government isn't spending. Even the Zimbabwean government is spending a lot of money, but that money finds itself in the hands of a few people. And since it's a lot of money, due to the laws of economics, their propensity to spend it decreases the more money they receive. You understand? So the marginal dollar concept kicks in, the rest of the millions that they make, see, Tagore is 10 million that he made this month. He's not gonna use it and spend it in Zimbabwe. No, all of it goes to Singapore, China, wherever he makes his money. Next month, Tagore is gonna make another $20 million. He's not gonna spend it in Zimbabwe. He's transferring it to overseas because that's where he thinks it's safe. But if that 20 million was spent on 1 million Zimbabweans, they will all gonna be spending that 20 million within the framework of the Zimbabwean economy, therefore creating economic growth and employment across the whole value chain of the ecosystem. To understand, that is how economies grow. Therefore, you need a head of state whose head is not rotten. But if the head of state has got a rotten head, all the government expenditure is going to be concentrated on him and his friends, and because of that, they will not have the propensity to spend the money within the province of the economy, but they will just spend the marginal dollar. You see, it's very simple. How many loaves of bread does a family eat a day? Only one. No matter how much money you have, your family is not going to buy 10 loaves because we've got more money. Okay, your stomach is small. There's certain amount of, we cannot eat more. How many television sets can you buy? One in the sitting room and others in the bedrooms, that's it. One in the kitchen, that's it. You cannot buy 1,000 television sets just because you're a multimillionaire. You don't. You put money in the bank. But if you give money to 1,000 families, they will buy 1,000 television sets. In fact, they might buy 3 television sets each. Therefore, the person whose business is to make television sets will now sell 3,000 television sets. You get what I'm talking about? Unlike in the process, in the scenario where all the money goes to the president and his friends, and since there's just 5 families, they can only buy 20 television sets. They will buy 4 each. Even if they buy 5 each, it will be a total of 25 sets of television. Do you understand? So I'm just giving you simple examples to explain how the economy works. Okay, the economy is a very complex thing, but there is other simple things that we can deduct, and these other policies that you actually chase so that you can have a certain outcome. As I said, that if you want to liberalize the economy, this spreading of the money is called liberalizing the economy or opening up the economy. We can do that through this road and rail infrastructure renewal program that I'm talking about. And then which takes us to number 8, which is really basically the same thing. It's called National Housing Building and Facelift Program, also for employment and economic stimulus, which is the same thing as 7. So that I divided them into 2: the road and rail infrastructure, then also the other buildings, building family homes, government structures, and facelift of our landscape. That is just basically the same one and the same. Okay, there we go. And number 9. Energy policy for the sake of energy independence. Okay. We need to have a robust energy policy. That is where the money comes in there. For the generation of electricity, you need funding to be able to finance an energy mix that will totally cover the whole country. Okay, because of time constraints and other limitations, I'm going to quicken it up, ramping it up from number 9 to number 11. I said number 9 is going to be an energy policy. That is when you will need a lot of money to be able to get your gas up and running your gas, electrical production through gas. Remember, we found oil and gas, so we need to use that gas to produce electricity. We've got hydroelectricity, which might not be reliable in the future depending on the water levels in Kariba Dam because of the changing climatic conditions. And then we've got some coal production there going on in Wanke, but then we also need to go do a on and off there because coal is a very dirty energy source, and other sources of energy, they're still in their infancy. And solar energy, you can put it there in the mix, but it's not something that is reliable. It's not something that we can really put all our hopes on. But so therefore in Zimbabwe, I am looking at hydroelectrical power and also gas, since the gas is ours, since we won't be buying gas from that is coming from under our land. We're not buying that gas or putting that gas into a electrical generator and produces electricity. But it's gonna cost us money. It's gonna cost billions of dollars. It might cost around 4 to 6 billion US dollars to get a proper proper electrification that will service the whole country. Number 10, we've got tax reforms, making clear tax law and revenue collection maximization, and so that is also the same thing as anti-corruption, but then this one is really focused on the revenue collection itself. We have robust plans there. The number 11 is going to be budget policy, treasury bills and bonds management, the structure there. And then you need to keep them proper and well documented, a proper borrowing plan together with a debt servicing plan that should be followed and well monitored, to avoid defaults. And I'll propose that we should have a special board of Treasury Bills Management Board. We call it a Treasury Bills Management Board, which must be set up constitutionally. The reason why I want to focus on this one is because when you are actually creating these bonds, okay, something that I didn't say in this video is that the 80 billion, okay, that's a rough estimate, but we are setting bonds for specific projects. Okay, you borrow money for specific projects and have a specific clear way of repaying that money, to understand. So if I'm borrowing money for the education sector, I must know that this money is for education, not for anything else, but for education. And I must know how I'm going to get that money back. Meaning, how am I going to put financial investments in education system building, and how much am I going to get back from the education system itself? Am I certain that all this money that I put in, I'm going to get it back from school fees, or I'm going to get half of it from school fees or 30% of it from school fees? So I must be clear in my mind as to how much am I going to get back from there, how much is budgeted to get to be found from there. And then even energy sector, if we are borrowing $5 billion to build power stations, how much of that 5 billion is going to come back from selling electricity? Be clear on that, so that it will help you to be able to manage the debt. You understand? So you compactionalize the debt. It's not just government debt as a huge bill, but it must be compacted. It must be compactalized properly, to understand. And even if you are asking money for roads and rail, who's gonna pay that money? So there must be clear indication, clear understanding, because some of these projects, they can repay themselves. Okay, when you're selling electricity, you sell electricity at a profit. Okay, but then you must also juxtapose that with other government policies in the future, where you might actually need to subsidize electricity, meaning that the electrical company might be operating at a loss or at break even. So you have to factor that in and know of it. Okay, and then So the other things that might not bring immediate revenue stream directly, like roads infrastructure, you're not going to get the money from roads infrastructure from toll gates. Toll gates will contribute, but that's a very minuscule figure because roads are costly, extremely costly. They cost in the millions. In fact, one of the most expensive things to build in the country is roads. All right, but then now, the reason why you will have all of these things having to work at once, that's why you need all this money. The reason why we have all these things to work at once is so that you can create conditions for economic development across the board. Now, when there's a robust economic development, you are able to get money from taxation. Taxation that may not be directly linked to any single one of these of these programs. So if someone starts an IT company, okay, they make billions, they pay billions in tax. They will use the roads, obviously, but it's not their use of roads that will contribute to their tax contribution. They will use our hospitals, they will use our education system, they use our infrastructure. But the fact that there is infrastructure, there is electricity, there is water. One thing that I didn't speak about water, but the water is in the National Housing Building and Facility Program. Also includes water then. It's very important, very important. I should have put it on its own separate as a 12th point. Okay, but I'm not gonna go through that now. I'm talking about the creating an environment where there's electricity, there's water, there's amenities, there's infrastructure, and then you can get the economy running, and therefore revenue can come from that, and that revenue that's going to be accrued from a GDP that is growing is going to be used to pay back some of these loans. You understand? And also, as we're getting the mining sector reforms, you will be able to increase the revenue collection from the mining sector, because we know people estimate between $3 and $5 billion is lost every year in Zimbabwe because of corruption in the mining sector. Can you imagine, even if we were to use a low base figure of $3 million a year, if we can increase the revenue collection by $3 billion a year by closing the loopholes, you will see that, we don't really need 80 billion. 80 billion is a figure that we put up there. We might be needing less. We might be needing 40 billion or 60 billion. But you will see that 3 billion times 10, that's 30 billion in the next 30 years. At the same time, the mining sector can grow if there is good reforms. The mining sector can grow, more players can come in there. Talking about the revenue excess of plus or minus $8 or $9 billion a year just from the mining sector alone. I haven't spoken about the banking sector that will going to grow. That will grow because the economy is now working. I'm telling you, we can take Zimbabwe to a 40 billion economy within a couple of years, and from there we can grow to $100 billion in annum economy in the next 3 to 4 years. You might look at it and say, an economist will say that no, those figures are too high. But as I told you, that Zimbabwe is ripe, okay. And at the same time, when we look west, when we look to Washington, and we rejoin the global infrastructure of everything, to understand, there's a lot of investment that will come to Zimbabwe, because those investments will want to catch up. You know that Zimbabwe is more attractive than most other African countries. The most attractive thing about Zimbabwe is not the mineral wealth. The most attractive thing about Zimbabwe is the Zimbabweans themselves. The Zimbabweans, we have got a human resources capital that is greater and better than most African countries, and it hasn't been utilized properly because the base, which is the country of Zimbabwe, has not yet been fully realized, or the potential of the nation of Zimbabwe has not been fully realized, because our political landscape is not conducive for the application of our ideas. So our ideas as a population, as Zimbabweans, these are just the position of government, the ideas of government from my standpoint. But if you want to factor in also the private capital of the Zimbabweans themselves across the world who will come and resuscitate their economy. We are talking about, I mean, a lot of revenue increase here and an increase in GDP. And any increase in GDP will also lead to an increase in revenue. If our GDP is $100 billion, you might see that our revenues might be around the region of $25 billion. Okay, if we increase the GDP to 200 billion, we will have a revenue stream of around 50 billion, which means that 50 billion or 80 billion I'm talking about can just be repaid in 1 year when our economy has grown to that level. So you can see that the repayment program is actually well within an understandable realm. It's easy to understand that we are able to repay back like 50 or 80 billion. Okay, so that is the intention really to prop up the economy and take it up there. That's why my initial target in the next 7 years would be $500 billion economy, which would make that to be the biggest economy in Africa in today's figures. It will be bigger than Nigeria and South Africa. And remember, Nigeria is big because of the oil. Nigeria does nothing except for oil. South Africa is also big because of the mining industry. Zimbabwe is going to be big because of the service industry as well. Financial services industry and the capacity of the Zimbabwean brain. So Zimbabwean, do not have your time wasted by ZANU-PF. Its time is over. Okay, its time is over. Next year elections come, we remove them. Okay, we'll vote against ZANU-PF. I'm done. Can't wait forever. And when it comes to the other guy, I do not know what's in his head because he's never told anyone what is in his head, except that he wants to remove ZANU-PF, which is not enough for me. Okay, he fails because it's not enough for me. Unless if he makes me his president and he can just sit at home and watch us build the country, then things will work. But watch out. We need to participate in next year's election, and we will need your help and your support. It's what bringing together the Zimbabweans, the Zimbabwean army, the Zimbabwean governance system, those in authority. Not ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF is a party, it's a political party. It means nothing. Political party is a group of people that contest in election. You must be able to differentiate between ZANU-PF and the military, ZANU-PF and the CIAOs, ZANU-PF and the police. Those are different things. Just that in Zimbabwe, a lot of people in ZANU-PF are also in the military. The people in the military and the CIO, they must divorce from ZANU-PF. They are still Zimbabweans, still in the military, still CIO, still police. Divorce from ZANU-PF and join me. And we take Zimbabwe forward. You understand? Sponsor me, support me what I'm doing. Support me as I re-engage Zimbabwe with Washington so that we can be this global powerhouse that we are supposed to be. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you listened up to this place, up to this position. If you did, congratulations. You love your country. The next thing you must do is to share, like, share, so that we can get this ball rolling and get Zimbabwe working. Thank you. Name is Ngobani Zondo. Thank you for watching.